that church had been there for quite a while, but it closed down. So he was sent there to revive, to start up the church again. And he was there for 6 months and nobody's joining the church. I met him and he shared the sad story about it. And I asked him, what about children? And we caught up the vision of 1 for 50. And today, I'm excited to tell you that church has over 40 children in the church.
Psalm 78 verse 4 says, "We will not conceal them from their children, but we will tell the next generation to come the praises of the Lord and His power and His wondrous works that He has done." Welcome to the 1 for 50 Tell podcast, where we will tell the stories of what God is doing in the lives of our 1 for 50 leaders. We're excited you're here. What we're going to do is share stories of where we've seen God working. And we're going to celebrate what God is doing around the world as we prepared to come here and meet together as a team of global leaders. We've been listening to the stories of our local leaders around the world. Some of the conversations we've had, some of the interactions we've had with local leaders from Kenya to West Africa to India to North America and beyond, and Myanmar, Thailand, Philippines, Nepal. So I'd like to just go around and things that you've heard, things that have happened in the last year, let's celebrate them. Let's share them.
I would like to share this testimony. Sometimes we don't fully realize the impact training can have on our children's ministry and the commitment of leaders. In 2024, after the 3-day training session on the importance of churches investing in children's ministry, Pastor Majoa was deeply moved. Upon returning to his congregation, he mobilized 52 youth leaders and again requested a 1 for 50 training to provide them to dedicate training. For 5 days, these leaders were equipped and encouraged. At the end of the training, the pastor sent them into the neighborhood to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. More than 300 children have given their lives to Christ, and the church has experienced remarkable growth. Drawing on this experience, Pastor Major decided that in 2025, an entire month would be dedicated in his church to teaching about children's ministry and the crucial role of families in education and spiritual guidance of young people. For him, when everyone takes responsibility, we can raise well-rounded children rooted in faith and better prepared to build future generation. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Xavier. Daniel.
I got so much to say
please share
what the Lord is doing across East Africa. Some of this is recorded, and I'll be sharing with you the voice audios. And because I got some responses from the places where we've gone for ministry and where 1 for 50 is impacting across East Africa. So I have great testimonies from these people, and I'll be glad to share. I would like to highlight one or two of the great stories that are coming one from Kenya, another one from Tanzania. So I start with the Kenyan story, and this from the coastal region of Kenya. So we had this training with Nancy last year in Kilifi, where we took the 1 for 50 training to a theological seminary. It's like a Bible training center where they are training young missionaries, indigenous, local young people to become missionaries, to reach out to the unreached communities within those local unreached communities. So like they bring from the Mijikenda communities, bring them together to the Nurme mission, and they equip them for a 1-year training. Within the 1-year training, they decided to include children ministry. And therefore, we came in handy as 1 for 50 to offer that training. And this 1-year training is going every year. Even this year, we are planning to do the same training. But part of it, we also included the key story in the last 2 days of the training. And it was awesome to see all these young people now being equipped not only to reach to adults, but also to reach to children. And therefore, we have testimonies coming from the students, what they are doing. They were able to take the gospel to about 13 villages after their training. And therefore, they are targeting these 13 villages to start churches. And their key focus first is on children. So they are taking the gospel to the villages, but they are beginning Bible clubs in the villages, and they are reaching out to these children with an intention to start up churches. Isn't it amazing to see Bible school students just getting out of the seminary and going straight to the mission field, and their beginning place is in the children ministry? It's exciting. So I'm receiving stories from Sifa and the principal of the school, who is Boniface, and I have a recorded voice from them, which I'm going to share with the 1-4-50 team. The other thing is about Paul, one of the pastors from Taita Taveta, Marungu Ward, which is part of the Coast Province of Kenya. I tagged him along that train as one of the buddy trainers, but I had an intention with him. I didn't want him to just become a trainee. I wanted him to learn from what we are doing, because he has the potential of being a trainer. And when he did the training, he was so much excited. Now he's moving into unreached villages, starting up training with the children leaders, where we have teachers in the churches around, and then going with those teachers to unreached places to begin churches. So I followed him on one of the missions last year in the month of August, and we went to a place called Grucho. And this typically unreached place, there's no church. The nearest church is 33 kilometers away. No schools. The nearest school is 17 kilometers away. So children don't go to school there until they are 10, 12 years old. So they've never heard the gospel until they are past 12 years old. And that's the place we went. And we were the first people to stand in those villages with children and talking about Jesus to these children. Most of them are nominal Muslims. Even the Muslims, they do not have mosques around that area. Very few mosques, and they are quite far away. So we reached out to this community, and it was exciting to see even parents coming in, even grandparents coming into our children's meeting, enjoying the games and guarding over the children against wild animals, because they have to bring them to the center, because they are living amongst wildlife, because they are next to the national park. And therefore we had a wonderful time, and we in fact we dug the first latrine, the first toilet in that community, and they thought it was for us, but we had to teach them how to use it. And that was part of the preparations for the outreach ministry that we did there. And the joy of it, one of the village elders gave 4 acres of land for use to start a church. So Pastor Paul is following up on that, because that village is going to have a church for the children. Now, the last part is great news from Geita, which is in Tanzania. And last year we hosted a training there that brought children workers and pastors from about 15 churches in that region. And there's exciting news from Karuma, which is 80 kilometers away from Geita, where one of the pastors, Kilian Sangawe, who is a young man, just married with one child and a wife. So they were sent 80 kilometers away to start up a church. And they stayed there for 6 months without people coming to the church. So they would preach every Sunday, but they are preaching only to 4 of them, him, his wife, and 2 others. And that church had been there for quite a while, but it closed down. So he was sent there to revive, to start up the church again. And he was there for 6 months, and nobody is joining the church. So when we visited there, when I visited the main church, which is 80 kilometers away in Geita, I met him, and he shared the sad story about it. And I asked him, what about children? And he said, okay, I can see children around the village, but they don't come to my church. I preach, when I call them, they run away. So I shared with him some of the tips on from 1-4-50 training, and invited him to our training. And he came. We were there with Nancy training him, and we caught up the vision of 1-4-50. and the kids' stories the training that we shared, and we went back to that village. And today, I'm excited to tell you that church has over 40 children in the church today. And that happened like immediately when we went there, 3 weeks down the line. The church was growing because I told him on some of the ways of welcoming. Actually, the key word is a welcome in our 12 core curriculum training, where we talk about welcoming children, dekomai. So I shared with him some of the ideas from our lesson on how to welcome children. And within 3 weeks, he had about 12 children. And when after training, went back and is doing great ministry. And I will be sharing with you some of the videos from there where he does the repetitions, the ideas of retelling the stories. They sent me the Christmas verses, how they were capturing the verses, and you can see him in front with a whole team of bunch of children, like 30 of them. They are all holding hands, and they are making steps every step with the biblical word, and that's how they are memorizing the story, the Bible stories and the verses. It's quite exciting to see people capture the vision and the training and running with it and practically applying it, and the fruit that is coming. And adults too also learning from the things that we are teaching the children. They are also capturing the verses, the Bible teachings, using the kids story ideas and the 1 for 50 training ideas that we put out there last year. So it's amazing, great stories that I'm getting from these communities, and I have a bunch of those stories and testimonies on voice and video. Thank you very much.
Daniel, I'm so encouraged by that story of just how 6 months this pastoral team were waiting to see growth in their church. Not until they activated the next generation and actually applied the word dekomai into their midst, welcoming children, did they see the fruit. And within 3 weeks, they had their chairs in their church filled.
At that training where he sat on the front row, hunched over with ears that were sticking out very big, waiting for anything we said, taking rapid notes, and was glued at the TOT on every single thing. Everything that was shared. We had 91 people in that training, and he was just right there. But we also had people who are recent graduates from seminary also attended. We probably had 6 or 7 church, 26 of them were church planters in that training in Gaeta. So they were just getting ready to get sent out and plant churches as well. And they were going with this training. So honestly, I think we've seen this in Malawi as well. Martha was training individual teachers, and they'd go back to their churches and were having trouble getting traction because the pastors wouldn't back them up. She decided to shift gears 2 years ago from now and decided, I'm just going to go train pastors instead. So she did that and trained probably 200 plus pastors in groups of 50. The first day of training, 2 or 3 people would show up, and they were checking out the curriculum to see if it was biblical. And then the second day, all 50 were there. Wow. And they were there the whole time going, oh, we're so sad we missed the first day. So she told them, in Africa, people like to get certificates. And it may be everywhere, but in Africa, especially, she said, well, you haven't earned anything yet. All you've done is sit here. When you train 50 people, I'll give you a certificate. So she gets a call like 2 months later. Hey, Martha, he's one of the pastors. He goes, okay, I've trained 50 people. And by the way, my church has doubled in size. Can I have my certificate now? She said, okay. And he wasn't the only one. It was one after another after another. So she's decided to go. They did this that year. They did regions of the country. And she's got some sway in her denomination. And they decided to make their denominational training last year all Assemblies of God. They did the whole country in regions, 1 for 50 core training. And she trained people to do the training in each region. So all of the Assemblies of God teachers in the country under their purview have been able to have the 1 for 50 core training. And now this year they're going back to do the kids story training. Daniel and I did 1 day. We did 1 day with them in Lilongwe with the group of leaders who came. We did a TOT We also did Kid Story at the end, which is an effective way to do Kid Story because you've learned all this theory. Kid Story is using every single thing you just learned to actually teach and disciple the kids with the Bible. So we did that, and she just did a follow-up training with the people who were there. And she said that they said, now doing it the second day, they came back. They were like, I can understand it so much better. And they were able to do a lot more application. And it just made all of the 1 for 50 stuff come alive. So this year she's going to take Kid Story on as an attachment to the core.
So this is so cool. We're seeing Kid Story, one of our partner networks, integrated into 1 for 50 trainings and making impact. And then the common theme between these stories too is how he's using like denominations within a country to carry the vision forward. And I just was in the Philippines and got to work with our leaders with the Conservative Baptist Philippines, a denomination in the Philippines. And we did a training on Saturday, just last Saturday, with 71 leaders, but that was outside of Conservative Baptist, even though the Conservative Baptist Philippines has been a foreigner, just like AOG in East Africa has carried this vision forward. The CBAP in the Philippines has really carried the 1 for 50 vision forward. And I love how it's so in line with a vision for church planting. I know a lot of missions and denominations, that's one of their main initiatives and their visions is to plant more churches, to see more leaders. But Daniel, you told the story of the pastor trying to grow their church and not seeing fruit for 6 months until they started activating the kids. And we're seeing leaders in Malawi and other parts of East Africa trained and planting churches because of children's ministry initiatives, both for 1 for 50 and Kids Story. I had 3 young guys, ages like 17, 19, and 21, come up to me after Saturday's training in central Luzon of the Philippines. And they want to be missionaries and plant churches in the Philippines, starting with kids ministry. Missionaries to children and reaching more people for the gospel, planting churches with an emphasis on kids. And that's what we're seeing all around the world. That's what's planting churches. That's what's growing the church, is this movement to equip young leaders and reach, disciple, and empower the next generation. And I'm seeing it in the Philippines. We did 3 different training events in 4 days, in the span of 4 days. And some of them was within the CBAP denomination, and others were outside of the CBAP denomination. But it's definitely a common theme of growing the church, planting churches, and we're seeing fruit from that because people are recognizing Jesus' heart for kids. They're welcoming children the way Jesus welcomed children. They're having that passion, and they're reaching kids who, when we look at the statistics globally of kids that come to Christ, 70% of them come to Christ between the ages of 4 and 14. It's the most strategic age to reach people with the gospel. So I'm so encouraged by the stories I'm hearing.
The other thing is about 1 for 50 curriculum in the academia. And I talked about us taking the 1 for 50 training to a seminary. And last week I spent good time with our sister Lydia Wocket. And she had visited the East University in Nairobi. That's the Assemblies of God University in Nairobi. And she's working with about 7 nations with the Assemblies of God universities and theological seminaries. And I was so much excited to see what she's doing, because part of the curriculum is actually anchored on the 1 for 50 Core 12. And in the process of her lessons, she's backing up the lessons with virtual videos from our YouTube channel. So she's using our YouTube channels to put across some of our 1 for 50 training as part of our curriculum to children workers in the seminary. And I'm so excited because it's something that I've been dreaming and praying for. How can we take our wonderful training curriculum to the Bible schools so that the seminary students, the pastors, and the bishops who are coming to these seminaries, they can go back to their churches with not only with theological training, but with ministry understanding and theological understanding of children ministry. It's basic theological training and the impact you can bring back to their churches. So it's exciting to see the 1-for-50 curriculum not only reaching to children workers, but also being part of the academia. And we seeing pastors learning children ministry in these theological institutions of learning, and that curriculum being our 1-for-50 open source curriculum. Isn't that exciting?
That answers the question why a certain nation won the Meerkat Award this last month. We have this award for the most YouTube videos watched and shared, and I've been tracking the analytics of our YouTube channel on 1-for-50 and seeing nations like Kenya and Ghana and India pop up with a lot of people watching our YouTube videos. But the winner of the last month, Cameroon, thanks to Lydia Wonget, exactly what you were telling us. Like, she is leading people through watching the YouTube videos in academic circles. We're getting hits on some of our older 1-for-50 videos that have been out for a while, but that have some of our core content on there. Some of those videos by Kimberly, by Cheryl, by Pastor Larry, a lot of those videos are showing up in our analytics as being prime videos, and the country that's getting the most hits on those is Cameroon in most recently. So I love how it integrates with academic, and now you're going to do something very similar, Daniel, in Kenya in academia. We have leaders in our movement like Cheryl Gunwald, who really has a heart for academia and are working with more higher level leaders in academic circles. And then we have partners in ministry in the 1-for-50 movement like GCF, who the GCF, the Global Children's Forum Leadership Experience, LE, right, is more of an academic deep dive, in-depth equipping of leaders for children's ministry. And Daniel, you yourself have been through the LE program. They just finished up an LE, or they're finishing up an LE Asia experience right now, and now applications are open for West Africa, right? It will take, and Europe. So this is a great partner network that 1-for-50 has, where people can go even deeper than 1-for-50 could take them and really get a great experience. We love promoting those other ministries. And then, of course, all of our 1-for-50 materials are free and open source and able to be used in any capacity by any leader who wants to use them in the academic circles. So that's really exciting to see. So we're seeing a lot of fruit all around the world from 1-for-50. We have some more stories too. Nancy, do you want to tell us about some of the stuff happening in Nepal?
We have had in the past connections in Nepal. So there was somebody on the books as a leader, but we never got any traction with that. My home church in New Jersey in the US has missionaries in Kathmandu, and we started talking to them, and they knew Deepan, and Bishnu is somebody Cheryl knew through Action. So we got the idea to do a training in Kathmandu with these guys. Bishnu couldn't be involved at the beginning because of medical issues with his family, but I went with Larry. The two of us went and did a full core. We had maybe 60 people or something, and that went very, very well. And then in November, Wendy Wong, whose church in New York City, Chinese church in New York City, their dedicated effort is to help do helping seminaries get developed and run in Nepal. And she went in with a team, and I accompanied her. We worked with Deepan and went, while the seminary stuff was going on with the rest of their church team, Wendy and Deepan and I went and did a training in another region of the country. And it was a TOT. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And Deepan is the national director of Awana for the country of Nepal. His specific region is the Kathmandu central region, but then he's got responsibilities to make sure all the stuff's happening in all across the whole country. So we made a strategy, we worked on a strategy together, and he had a plan to figure out partners to help him go into each region. So as we trained together, he now has got all the stuff translated into Nepali. And when we got there, found out he had learned Kid Story 7 years earlier. Mm-hmm. He'd already had Kid Story. He has Awana, he has Kid Story, and he has now got one for 50. And he said, wait a minute, I think that this other stuff I'm doing with Awana and Kid Story is like the glove, and one for 50 is all the stuff that goes into the hand that goes in the glove that tells you what you're doing and how you're doing. He goes, I'm set for life now. I can train forever. And because I kept having to recycle these lessons I had because I didn't know what else to teach them. But now I have the theory and all of this behind. And he's a seminary grad in Nepal. So when Wendy came and we met the seminary leaders, Deepan was there able to get contact with all those guys. So after this, Jonathan has followed up with Deepan also, and he has been going into regions, but I think I'll let you continue.
Yeah, it was so encouraging last October, November to be there working with Bishnu and Deepan and doing our 3-day 12 together. And we had leaders from a variety of different churches that came for this. And it was so encouraging to see these two key leaders working together. They're not the same denomination, not the same organization. And they have different areas of ministry in rural areas of Nepal, but they have come together and decided to partner together and work together to share resources. And it's, in my mind, it's what really has made the 1 for 50 Nepal gel as a movement. I would say 2025 was the year that 1 for 50 Nepal began, because although we had 1 for 50 activity in the nation before that, this was the first time we had 2 different leaders from different networks coming together, working together to accomplish the same purposes. And I think that's so core with 1 for 50's ethos and vision, is that we're all about sharing resources. We're all about working together. And a movement is beyond just somebody doing a 1 for 50 event one place. It's more than just one leader working. But when leaders work together, that's where we really see the 1 for 50 movement taking off. And so I'm excited because they've continued since that training. They've continued to go and do other events and train other leaders. And we're really excited to see what God is going to continue to do in Nepal.
We find people on the ground doing what we're talking about, whose heart is already there. And then they're going, ding, 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 this is exactly what I need. To be part of this network is going to boost my ability to do what I was doing already, even better. Plus, they're encouraging others outside of Nepal as well.
Well, we'll take a little break here, and then we'll come back and we have more stories from Vietnam, from India, and from other parts of the world. So stay tuned.